Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Inside webinar session, State of the Art and Trends of Market Intelligence. My name is Rainan Kaili. I'm the director of the Institute for Competitive Intelligence, and it's my pleasure today to welcome our speaker, Vanessa Querry from Digimind. You're on the line, Vanessa.
Yes, I'm here. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Yes, thank you. It's always good to have a quick check on our microphones because we're not sitting in the same room, but obviously we have a bit of a distance in between. So I guess you're in Paris, right?
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
Yeah, a special pleasure. What can I tell you? The topic of the day is pretty exciting, interesting for anybody and everybody who's in the field of competitive/market intelligence. And of course, most of you must know our institute. We're very much in this game of being state of the art and knowing what's coming up, simply to prepare good content for our workshops, our certificates, our conferences. So we're always interested in supporting this kind of initiative that Vanessa will talk about today. And this is obviously surveys, empirical research, one might say, about this market, this very specific field. And this is exactly what I'd love to hand over to Vanessa. She will introduce herself and then run through her results of a survey. Obviously, we can't, just a moment, Vanessa, just to let you know, it's not just for me and her to talk. Well, at least with a microphone it is, but you're all invited to ask your questions by using our chat function. And this is exactly in this GoToMeeting panel on your screen. This is where you can simply type in questions, and please type in whenever you have a question. So while we're presenting, while we're talking, I'd love to receive your questions. I'll read them out loud, and then Vanessa can try to answer right away. But now, please let me hand over to Vanessa.
Thank you, Rainer. And thank you so much, ICI, for giving me this great opportunity today to be presenting the market report we've been leading here at the Digimind. So before I deep dive into our main topic, I just wanted to say a few words about myself. So I've been working at Digimind for over 1.5 years. I'm marketing manager here, and I look after the CI competitive intelligence market. I've been a speaker in a few conferences, included SME last year, and I manage all the content at Digimind regarding CI and MI. So if you're interested, please go onto our website. We have a blog. We have a blog that's dedicated to CI and MI, and we also have a few ebooks where we share best practices inspired from our clients. So that's it about myself. So let's move on now to the key topic of the day. So I'm here today to really present the main outcomes from our market report, which is named State of the Art and Trends of Market Intelligence. And before I go into the main topic, I just wanted to say a few words about Digimind. So Digimind, we are a software editor. We've been in the field for over 20 years. So the company was founded in 1998. And we first went into market with a market intelligence platform. And back in 2013, we launched a second solution, which is a social media listening solution. So we have about 200 employees worldwide, a lot of clients, around, many countries. And as you can see, we have about 10 offices worldwide to support our global clients. So what I would like to talk about today is, first of all, I'm gonna give you a bit more background on why we decided to do this market report, and what methodology we've used and what was the profile of respondents, so that you can clearly identify with your peers. Then I will present in more details the market intelligence function in modern organizations. So, how many people are in teams, how the teams are structured, who do they report into, those kind of questions will be addressed. Then we will be, looking at the challenges that are faced by a market intelligence department. And then for the last part, we'll have a look at the trends and what their potential impacts might be. So from a skill point of view, from an HR point of view, like will the department change in sizes, for example, and what's the feeling from market intelligence professionals regarding the future, and then we'll hand over to question and answers, and I would be happy to take any questions you have. I wanted to point out as well that this is a pretty long survey and market report, and for today's webinar, I only chose the most relevant slides because otherwise it would have lasted over an hour, and that was not the purpose. We know you don't have as much time as you would like, but if you are interested in getting the full report, it's very possible. So just send me an email, and then I will send you the full version. But I will give you my email later in the webinar. Okay, so let's now just, again, give you, I wanted to give you a bit more background information on why we decided to launch this market report. So first of all, what we can see at Digimind is that a lot of our clients are actually, asked to do a lot more with less budget, less resources. And we know it's a struggle for most of you. So what we wanted to understand is, how are the market intelligence teams organized and how do they fit in today's modern organization? What are the challenges that they are facing? And one specific aspect that we are interested in was how they evaluate the success of market intelligence, and how do they demonstrate and get their added value recognized across the organization. And then the last big part was to actually understand the trends that will impact the function in the coming years, and what are the technologies that will raise, what are how do the organization will need to change. In order to conduct this market report, we took two different approaches. The first one was to conduct a quantitative part through an online survey, and this online survey was actually sent out to like over 300 recipient European wide. So there were a few of our clients. So in France, obviously, where we have a strong customer database, but not only, there were a few in the Benelux, the Nordics region, and DACH. So DACH, including Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, where we have a strong customer database as well. And out of those 300, we got about 130 answers. And that's, what I will be presenting today. And then, there was a second part, because, getting, the region results was obviously a very good start, but we wanted to deep dive a little bit more into some topics, such as, the trends I just mentioned, like artificial intelligence, data visualization, internal billing, GDPR. And to do that, we needed to have on our side some experts, so that they can tell us exactly how those trends will impact the function. So this is the qualitative part. And this one, I will not present it today because it is way too long. There's a lot of content. But again, if you're interested in reading and finding about it, just drop me an email and I will share it with you. Okay, so now back to the profile of participant. Again, so as I mentioned, we had about 130 respondents from organizations across the world. And well, looking at the size of organization, it stands out that it was mostly like large organizations. So from 500 to over 5,000 employees that responded to our survey. Then we ask those participants, do you manage a budget? And actually, nearly 73% responded yes, which is, a testament to the maturity and the seniority of our audience. Then we were curious on, how big the budget is. And as you can see on the chart right here, we have actually 53, over 50% that have a budget that is less than 50K. But top say I wanted to add here, this budget does not include salaries. So it's just really like the tools and infrastructure. And, this just roughly 40% that have a budget over 50K, as you can see, and 14% above 200K. And then we ask our respondent, what industry are you in? And well, there are two big industries that really stand out. The first one is the healthcare and the chemical sector, and the second one is professional services. But as you can see on the chart here, we have pretty much every industries represented in this report. So it should be very easy for you to identify to the response. And we didn't want to just target a few industries, because then it would have been harder to to have an accurate representation of today's organization. And last but not least, we ask our participants, what business line do you report to? And as you can see, 32% reported to marketing organization, so marketing department. And then strategy for 17%, and then e-commerce, so which is all the decision makers of the company. Okay, let's now move on to the first part, which is the market intelligence function in modern organization. So first of all, we ask our respondent, what's the size of your market intelligence team? And well, as you can see, the majority is between 2 and 5 employees. And the second result is actually individual contributor. And, something I wanted to highlight is, which is pretty obvious, but I wanted to highlight it, is that obviously the bigger the organization is, and the more resources they have within the market intelligence department. Second question, what profile is the most represented within your team? And well, we were a bit surprised here, because actually the first answer, the first answer is that it's a business expert with a dual skill set. So it's very interesting, because it shows that the market intelligence profession is actually changing. It used to be before, like CI manager and analyst, but now nowadays, more and more business experts actually have this dual skill set. So they have both a technical expertise, which they use in market intelligence missions and roles. Third question, do you invoice other business units for the use of licenses and services? This is actually called internal billing. And we were, very surprised as well to find out that there are more and more departments using that business model. And for example, in 2012, when we asked the same question, there were only 10% that said yes. And as you can see, as of today, there were 42 organizations that said that they have implemented this model, and it's really a strong indication on how the market is evolving in that area. Next question, what are the most used communication channels? So we wanted to find out what are the most popular deliverables. And well, you'd be surprised, but the newsletter are still, the most favorite deliverables. And one thing that was interesting is to see that what we call ESR, so enterprise social networks, are actually appearing in the top 5 of channels. They are getting extremely popular. So enterprise social networks are like our tools, like collaboration platform like Yammer, Google Plus, Slack, Jive, for example. And something that we were a bit surprised here at Digimind is to find out that only 10% of respondents are, actually using dashboard to share strategic information, and this doesn't really match with the reality of our customers. Moving on now to the second part, which is what are the challenges faced by market intelligence professionals. First of all, we were curious to find out how many analyze the success of their market intelligence, competitive intelligence activities, and if not, what was the reason why they're not doing it? And the first surprise is that actually 54% of respondents say they do not analyze the success of their projects. And when we asked the questions, it was interesting to find out that the methodology is not really the issue, but more the fact that they have never, set any KPIs from the beginning. Then they feel they don't have the time needed to track the success of the projects, to analyze the different KPIs. And the last reason they mentioned is they don't think they have the right tools to do that.
Vanessa, just to ask a question, because obviously everybody's asked now to contribute to this discussion with their chat function. So let me start a little bit of a dialogue. If you could go back to this very slide, which you just had on. Yeah, this one. Thank you. Yeah, I just wonder, when you say do not analyze success of their projects, does this mean they invest into, say, a software? This is a project, or are we talking about the research projects?
Yeah, it's more research projects. Yeah, we didn't ask about the tool, any like professional software. It was more like whenever you launch a market intelligence or competitive intelligence project, do you analyze KPIs? Like the satisfaction rate, the number of like the opening rate of newsletter, for example. Those are the questions we ask.
But then you don't understand the next sentence. The methodology is not the issue, which means they have a methodology.
Yeah, exactly. So they actually know how to analyze KPIs, but the reason why they're not doing it is because they've never set KPIs. So whenever the project is launched, they think it's too late to implement any KPIs. And most of the reason was actually the lack of time as well. They feel that their hands are too full, and they don't have the time to just look at the different metrics and report them. And the last one is they don't have the tools to measure the KPIs.
Okay, understood, because this is a very hot issue, right? Everybody in this webinar should have the kind of same challenge every now and then, at least, to justify their plain existence.
Yeah.
So this is indeed pretty surprising if they can sort of.
Yes, it is very. I find out. Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of space now for debate, which we can do maybe later on, but this is definitely an interesting highlight to see this one here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And by the way, here's a question. Sorry, Vanessa, here's a question from the audience. And I said we will throw it in as they come. What do you think dashboards is less used as communication channels? Was referring to the slide before. How come? I guess the question is.
That's actually a very good point. For me, the way I see it, and that's something I have discussed with my consulting team when we got the result back, is mostly because some organizations don't properly set up dashboard in organization. There's like one big dashboard with lots of information on it, and it's not always relevant or personalized. And that might be one of the reasons why it's not one of the most favorite communication channel. And newsletter, it's if you have a tool, a newsletter or can be made in an automated way, so it doesn't really take time for a CI department to get them created. Or dashboard, there's a lot more customization that's needed. So maybe that's a reason why they are underutilized.
Okay, good point. So thank you for asking this question, and please let's keep them coming. Thank you for taking that on.
Okay, let's go back to the KPIs. As we were discussing a few minutes ago. So we ask our respondents, which KPIs do you mostly follow? And again, it's very traditional, the KPIs that are being used. The first one is the number of deliverables that are created. Then equality is the satisfaction rate, and that is very interesting. That is a very interesting KPI. And then we go back to more traditional KPIs like the number of winners, the number of business units we are working on. But what's really, the key takeaway I wanted to point out is that, as you can see, monetary KPIs are not used a lot. So, for example, only 5% of MI department actually use the amount of opportunities they generated. So, like, for example, if you're doing any client or sales intelligence and you help your company, detect new business opportunities, well, you should be using that KPI. But as you can see, there's only 5% doing that. And the second thing that was a bit shocking was actually internal billing, the revenue that's generated by internal billing. We go back to the previous question, to one of the previous questions. Actually, 42% of respondents say they have implemented this model, but there's only 3% actually using that revenue as a KPI. And the second aspect is the KPIs that are related to time management. Only 4% of them are using it, but it's a shame because it can be a strong indicator. Like, for example, if you have implemented a professional software, you know exactly how much time you're saving on task, and how you can maybe dedicate the time of one of your resource to analysis, and instead of doing some manual task, for example. So yeah, that was a bit surprising, the answers again we got here. Then we were curious, like, if only 46% of department analyze the performance, what's the reason? And it appears that it's closely related to the management, to what they are being asked to do. As you can see, there's only 27% of management. So whether it's marketing or the e-commerce management, that require reporting on the market intelligence activities performance. So it's a very interesting figure here as well. Next question was asked, would you rather say that your management recognizes your added value and expertise? And well, you know, the answer is a bit neutral because actually the majority said that it depends on the stakeholders. So regarding of depending on the business units work with, sometimes you know, they feel that, you know, they are recognized and sometimes they don't. And actually 43% indicate that their added value is recognized across the organization, and we only have 16% of negative answers. So people that say really not know or really I find that my value is being recognized. And last question in this part, we ask, what are your current challenges as a market intelligence professionals? And actually, what you can see on this chart is that the biggest difficulty is actually to work with a business unit, with business experts. So whether it's regarding you know, how they use the information that's provided to them, or getting help to validate information, or or if it's to ask them, you know, to work together on new projects. So that's the biggest challenge that market intelligence departments are facing nowadays, is really working with the different business values in their organization.
Can you comment on that a little bit, especially the 2 slides before this part about recognition versus the slide before, how do they measure? Don't you think there's a bit of a correlation here? Kind of, they don't know what we're doing because they have no formal reporting?
Yes, well, I mean, that's one of the issue, I think, you know, why if the management is not asking any reporting, that's why, you know, they haven't implemented any KPIs. I'm sure, you know, if the situation was the other way around, and, you know, the management actually required like a weekly or a monthly reporting, then we would see maybe 90% of organization setting KPIs for their projects.
Right. So there's a bit of a education necessary, let's say, for your managers. So they better know how to handle, how to manage in a way. So that might be a big reason, right? It's kind of mystery or loads of unknowns, and they're grateful for everything they might get, but not really understanding this function.
But what we have seen, if I may complement this answer, what we see, for example, at Digimind is that some of our clients, you know, they actually report into like marketing, like a head of marketing, and those head of marketing don't actually have any CI background or culture, so they don't really know how to manage people in their team. That's why, you know, they don't actually they don't really need any ask for any reporting. So but when, you know, the CI department is working really closely with it with their e-commerce, for example, we've seen that there are a lot of them that actually have implemented KPIs and really track them. And I think it's a very interesting difference as well, because depending on your reporting line, you know, the way you're gonna behave and set your function is very different.
Yeah, and here's a good remark, by the way, from our audience. I just read it out. Maybe the management doesn't require the report because they don't have a standard set to evaluate such support department on.
Yeah, I think that the biggest part is that education is missing.
Yeah, and that's of course makes it very difficult to say it's good, it's bad, or it's simply useful. Yeah. And here's another question. I think it's relating to the next slide that you had on already. What would be your solution for the 23%? Now let me check where do we have 23%.
Would that be this one?
Oh, it's over there. Yeah, it's over there.
Yeah, the business experts who use the information they provided. Well, actually, I think there are a lot of solutions to that. I think that the main point is that you have to consider that those business experts as a community, and if you want to get them, interested and engaged, you need to animate the community. So sending out newsletter is a first step, but actually reaching out, setting up like meetings, like for example, organizing maybe a user club once per year, where you explain what you do and how you help them. I think those are really interesting aspects that you should consider to get them more engaged into your projects.
Agreed. And again, you sort of you indicate already that newsletters are still maybe overused, and that might not be a good hook for any expert, right? Whether self-proclaimed or real ones to engage. So maybe it's an issue of the media, the format, how you communicate and how you involve people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is. But the main point I wanted to make is that creating deliverables is obviously a fundamental of the job. You need to do that. That's how you're gonna provide strategic information. But I think it's important for CI to take their community to the next level. And for that, they need to animate the community, whether they organize, webinars, like for example, they can create small videos, explaining precisely on how they help the different business units address their business challenges and unlock opportunities. Those are, the things I think that are important for us. And that will really help, getting the community more and more active and more engaged, and then they will be they will absolutely think about using the information that's provided to them. It will become more like a reflex than just a newsletter coming into a full inbox.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, let's move on now to the last part. I see that time is running fast, so I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible. All right, so the future of market intelligence. So in this last part, we wanted to understand from our audience, so market intelligence professionals, what trends do you already see arise as of today? And then, as you will see in the next questions, we ask them, what about in 10 years? What trends will really make a difference and an impact on the profession? So let's now have a look at the trends that are kind of already happening as of today. And as you can see, for market intelligence professional, they think that their function is less seen as a simple information gathering function, but more as the ability to deliver a complex analysis. So that's the first really answer that stands out. And they feel like for 27% of them, they feel that market intelligence is more and more included in strategic decisions. That's interesting, right? And actually, another point that I found really interesting is that now that automation is more and more common, market intelligence professionals are more important to the organization. So really, for 2/3 actually of our respondents, the present trend is that they are able to emphasize further their expertise. They are actually standing apart from this image of simple information collection, and they are more and more included in strategic decisions. Moving on now to what will happen in the mid-long term, and the first question we ask is regarding technologies and regulation. Which one will have the most impact on market intelligence? And well, without any surprise, artificial intelligence and data visualization technologies are the one that stand out, that were the most named. And the third one was GDPR regulation. So I I guess you are familiar with it, but just in case you're not, the GDPR is a regulation which is actually the General Data Protection Regulation, is to make sure that we protect the way we manage and share private information. And the last one was the connection with other business tools. So the ability, for example, to connect your market intelligence platform with your CRM or your business intelligence tool, like Tableau, for example, etc. And this one was the last answer question.
And can I just ask a question about that? If you go back to the slide before, there was an answer, am I already integrate new technologies which make them more productive? Is this new technologies related to the slide after that, i.e. the big trends?
No, it's not. No. It's more, like what they meant by market intelligence already integrate new technologies. It was mostly regarding like, for example, those that have a professional software. Like, for example, those software enable some automation already, and that already makes them more productive. That's in that sense.
Understood. So this is not the same technologies, but more processes and how to get them more productive.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All right. So how do you expect technologies to affect market intelligence? And again, what stands out is a very positive vision, because if you see it, if you have a look at the answers, there are only 3% that are concerned by those new technologies and that think that those technologies could replace them. And in total, 97%, it's a big number, 97% actually think that those technologies will make their job even more relevant than it is today. So very interesting, because we were not expecting such a positive outcome.
Here's a question for that from our audience. To this chart and the chart before, was this question provided as open question, or had participants different answers to choose?
They had different answers to choose.
And obviously
for this one, and for this one, it was an open question.
This is open question, okay, and the next one.
Because it's interesting. The next one was answers they could choose, yeah.
Okay, thank you. This was good clarification.
Then next question, how do you expect market intelligence professionals to adapt from a skill set standpoint? And actually, 34% professionals think they will be asked to actually focus more on the analysis, since some of the work will be automated. Again, with artificial intelligence, we expect that people that are market intelligence experts will spend less time on sourcing, validating content. So that should free some of the time so that they can focus on analysis. And then the second part was for 25%. They think one of the main skill they will have to develop in the future is to master data visualization. So in order to make strategic information even more visual than it is today, so that it can easily be analyzed by a business expert.
Yeah, and here's a question for this on the slide before. Do you know who will manage the AI? CI/MI professionals? Question mark?
Who will manage the AI?
Artificial intelligence, yeah. Is this, I guess the question is this part of your skill set as a CI/MI professional, or from an IT department that will help you to implement and then you kind of benefit only?
Yeah, I mean, for me, for example, I would sit more on the software editor side, like the software editor that will slowly integrate AI into the tools. And actually, the AI will learn from the behavior of CI and MI professionals. But I don't think they will need to actually develop skills in that area.
Okay, I think there's a long debate on that, but this would be the next session actually. How to
Okay. So
to
someone
make it happen. But it was interesting to see your point of view, as you are a software vendor company, obviously. So you should have some ideas or even roadmaps on your own product development.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next question. How do you think that the structure of market intelligence department will evolve? So that's, we wanted to understand, do you think the function is going to disappear, or is going to, be reduced, or is going to grow? And again, it's very positive because only 14% assume that their function will either shrink, will either disappear or reduce. And 58% think that the key to success is to work more closely with business units, and they'll be able to expand the teams, or at least remain the same size.
Okay, and here's a question, Vanessa. Can I just ask a question from the audience about the AI, artificial intelligence topic? Just reading it out for you to comment. I think it might also be beneficial to clarify the impact of MI as a field or within a company. Most SMEs, small, medium-sized enterprises, might not be able to afford AI-driven MI solutions.
So the question is, will they be able to afford?
Yeah, I think the big point is big companies might be able to invest into that, but the smaller ones might never ever get there. So of course there must be kind of, back to your initial slides, there must be different kind of answers or responses, whether you're in a small company, less investment money around versus a bigger one, I guess.
But actually, I don't really agree with that statement. The way we see it here at Digimind is we think that AI will probably open more doors for SMB to leverage CI, because until now, what was the issue with CI is that it's it's a lot of work. Whether when you have to select the sources, you have to validate the content, you have to create the deliverables, you have to animate the community, and it takes a lot of time, and you need to dedicate resources to that effect, right? If you want to be successful. And that's why, a very few SMB have a department that's dedicated to MI and CI today. But with artificial intelligence, a lot of those tasks will actually not disappear, not, at least not in the first part of the launch, but they will be reduced. There will be a lot less manual work that will be required. And actually, we see that as an opportunity for SMB, because before they may not have the dedicated resources, but now with AI, because it will simplify and automate some of the work, they will be able to invest more in that field. That's how we see it here at Digimind. I'm not saying this is the right way, but that's our vision, and I guess it would be interesting to have a debate around that.
Yeah, and I guess drill down a little bit and really see what IA applications will be around. And as we all know, over time, prices might simply decrease, and then it becomes a commodity, and then it's part of your general package, whatever software you use. But again, this is definitely enough content and a food for thought for a new session on that. Okay, I think we're sort of getting to the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I just had one last slide, which shouldn't take long. The last slide was really in order to evaluate the sentiment about the future. How do market intelligence professionals feel about what's coming tomorrow? And it was very interesting as well to see that 60% indicate that they are confident that those new technologies and trends will make their function even more relevant. And what I see really interesting, what I find even more interesting is that in France there are a lot of debate on the effects of AI. For example, the fact that it will eliminate some of our jobs, and actually, MI professionals don't think the same way. They think it's going to make their job even, they think, first of all, that their job is still going to be there in the next year, and it will make their job even more relevant and even more interesting because it will get rid of some of the manual work. So that's a very interesting statement I wanted to share with you to end this webinar. And yes,
very good point, as you said. So this is definitely some hope, some light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly,
No, of course, again, it depends very much on the culture again and the change management, right? Whether you see something as a wonderful opportunity or rather a threat, as your existence might change over time.
Yeah.
But this is a long debate. But yeah, agreed. Very interesting highlight. This last question set. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And I wanted to share my email address in case you're interested in reading the full version with the expert interview. Please drop me an email, and I will share the full version with you.
Yeah, there's been just sent a little chat line with Vanessa's address, and
lovely. Thank you.
You can sort of download your reports later on. Yeah, this was very interesting. And if anybody has a sort of last-minute question issue, please let's pop it up now. And I guess we're pretty much at the end of our time anyhow, and people have to get back to either work, bed, or whatever you're doing, and whatever time zone you're calling in. No, nothing coming up. So please switch to the last and final slide of this session.
Yeah.
Vanessa? No, this one. Yeah. So thank you for attending. This is one of our webinars. We call it an insight webinar, where we interview, where we discuss interesting hot topics. And if you want to check it out later on, or want to refer to it later on, it will be on our www.competitive-intelligence.com website in a few days or week. And of course, yes, ICI, our institute, is in the business of certification workshops. So here you see a set of workshop weeks coming up. So from Paris to London to Germany, but now, and there's a lot of potential. If you want to dig deeper, just let me know. And yes, there's a must-be event coming up, and I think Digimind, Vanessa, right? You will be around as well.
Yes,
so this is in Luxembourg, 7th to 10th of May, where you see a lot of presentations, a lot of panels of discussions, of community networking, and of course vendors like Digimind around. So there's a lot of goodies coming up for you. If you have any questions, again, let me know, and we will take care of that. Yeah, Vanessa, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, it's a difficult format, and as you can see, we don't have a camera on, so we always have to improvise a little bit when it comes to question answers. And yes, reading out these chat posts are not as easy. It's not as fluent, let's say, from the overall flow, but I think it was very useful, very good inspiration coming up, food for thought, maybe some ammunition for you and your companies when you have to defend, or even if you want to grow. So here you see at least some peer side reviews and best practice, but agreed there's a second set, as Vanessa mentioned, of more in-depth and more details coming up, which makes it even more valuable if you can now correlate by industry, by function, by company size, and going a bit more into this kind of empirical research. Very well. Thank you very much, Vanessa, and thank you everybody for attending, and let's see in a few weeks. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.